I want to ask you the question of when you say trauma, that you've not said what the trauma is,
Yeah.
and can you explain why?
I think for me, it's keeping something safe for myself, and I think when you've had, or for me anyway, having trauma and have it take over for so long, and have allow it to take over my life for so long, it's almost just having a little bit of protectiveness over it, because it caused such trauma for me and caused so many issues. I think it's, I don't mind talking about the trauma I've been through with people that either ask me, but no one ever really asks you. It's almost like the taboo to talk about what the trauma is.
Yeah.
But I've spoken to people that I'm not necessarily close with about what I've been through, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I can talk about it. Previously, I couldn't talk about it without getting really upset or.
Yeah.
But now it's just, I think, if I think about it, it doesn't have any attachment to it. It's just something that's happened. But I think for me, not being able to talk about it isn't the issue. It's just that I choose who I want to speak to
about
yeah
it. Yeah.
And also who I feel deserves that knowledge.
Yeah.
Because when you've had people say to you, oh, you've got nothing to worry about, I'm almost like, right, well, I'm not going to talk to you about all my stuff because you're not gonna really maybe even believe me.
Yeah, because I've already got a preconception about you anyway.
Yeah. So I think I'm just choose who I want to talk to, and also like I said before, people don't always ask you. People are too scared to ask you.
Yeah.
And I think if you feel safe and you feel like it's your power, like it's mine, it's not anyone else's. So it's just, I'm just careful who I talk to about it. But I'm open. If someone was to ask me, I would happily talk about it. But for example, now, if for everyone to see, it's I wouldn't want to talk about it on this podcast or this video because I'm not getting the choice of who I actually get to show it to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I do think it's just about, doing speaking to who you feel comfortable speaking to. And I have people that I've spoken to about in detail and know everything, and then there's certain people that know a lot less, or they might know a different version of it. So I think it's just feeling comfortable. And I think for me, I also went through this period where I didn't really want to talk about it with people because I talked every week about it in therapy.
Yeah.
So it was this period where I just kind of wanted to just enjoy being happy and not think about it. But now I'd just say that trauma it's who you feel comfortable talking about, and if you're in that position where you can talk about it, because if you've not dealt with it, it might still be a bit too fresh to then divulge all these issues, and if you've got triggers. But yeah, I think it's for me just speaking to people that I feel comfortable with, and also what's the reason for me to talk about it. If I'm just talking to you about it to talk about it, I don't really think that's beneficial, because
Exactly. And the other reason is what you'd mentioned last time as well, about how people judge you for the way that you look. And do you think part of you might guard it because, do you have to say what your trauma is just to be able to get validated because of,
100%. I think that it's when I've told people the actual trauma, they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened to me when I was younger. And they're like, really? I would never know. And I'm like, how could you know? What kind of statement is that? You can't look at someone and go, that never happened to you.
Yeah.
Or think that couldn't happen to someone. But I do think just judge, when people are being judgmental, or I can see it now.
Yeah.
You can tell when people are being judgmental, and I think knowing that certain people were judgmental made me not want to tell them. But I think just people can just be very judgmental, and why would you want to tell someone who is going to probably judge something that is really traumatic? Obviously it's something really serious, so why would you want to tell a certain person if you think that if you know that they're just doing it to try either invalidate it or have an opinion?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you talk to people about it, you don't need an opinion, you're just talking about it.
Yeah.
But obviously that's other people's issues. It's not my issue. But
yeah, it's theirs. But you don't want to be able to explain everything about you to kind of curb their.
Yeah, and it's not my problem. If someone thinks that about me and doesn't know me, then it's not my business or my. I don't need to go correct someone's view of me.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know me well enough, how can you have that view?
Well, it's not your view of you; it's their view of you, which has nothing to do with you.
100%, and I also just think as well, you work so hard in therapy to get to a place where you love yourself and you work really hard to make sure that you're all right. It's that's not gonna get changed by anyone. So I protect that side of it, and obviously with that is the trauma that I've been through. But yeah, I think it's just about making sure that you feel comfortable who you speak to, and also like speaking to people not because you want to validate it. Like if you feel like you need to tell someone because you feel like they don't understand you, that's, for me, that's not a good enough reason to tell someone.
Yeah.
But I do think it helps people understand you, or like, you know, if I've acted a certain way, that might be because something's triggered me because of something I've been through previously, or if I've had an anxious feeling or whatever that may be, it might have been because of the trauma.
Yeah.
So I think it's just being, you know, understanding of that as well.
So speaking of your wellness now, and you know what, as my motto is, as you say, have your own back and be your own best friend. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Okay. So can you tell me how you have your own back and how you're your best friend now?
I'd say now it's the biggest one for me is like boundaries. So I think before I didn't really have any boundaries with people, and I think when you grow up in an environment, you don't see it if you're going through something, and then when you kind of come out of it or you're in a different headspace, you see it.
Yeah.
So for me, the first one is definitely boundaries, and you know, whether it be friends or family or whoever it may be, or people in the street, like if you feel your boundaries been compromised, you don't just sit and take it. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let myself get upset by someone else, or you know, let someone else's view deter me from what I'm doing, which is like just being happy.
Yeah.
And also, I'd say pushing myself. I'd say before I was really scared, and sometimes I do get scared. Like previously on our call, I've been away and I'd got a bit anxious, but then I realised I have the power to kind of stop that anxiety as well. And I think just being my best friend is knowing my own mind a bit more, and bringing myself back down and doing things that actually make me really happy and being around people.
Yeah.
But I think it's really hard sometimes to be your own best friend. Sometimes I feel like I've been through moments where I'm not in a good headspace. I'm like, I hate myself, I don't love myself. But I think it's just always coming back down to that whole thing of that'll pass, like you will get through it and you'll be back again really happy. But I think also just doing little things for myself that are actually quite big, like going on a walk, listening to my favourite podcast. I love doing that. I went on a 16,000 step walk, literally not yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
And also like speaking to people that I really love. Like I'm an extrovert. I don't do well just sat in my room like doing. I can sit in my room on my own if I need to, but I hate it. Like I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
I like being around people, like doing things. So I think being my own best friend as well is knowing my strengths and really leaning into them. And just not putting up with stuff anymore. Like, and I mean that in the sense of not doing something I don't want to do, whether that be a job, whether that be, you know, when I was at uni, like just doing things I genuinely want to do, but also knowing that like leaning into more of like, if I don't want to do it, why don't I want to do it? Or like, why, or is it that I don't want to do it, or I feel like I can't do it?
Yeah.
So I think being your best friend is different for everyone, but for me now it's more just like leaning into my future a bit more, and like what I want to be is me now.
Yeah.
And when I say things like in 10 years time I want to be this person, it's like, well, I can't be that person now. But yeah, I think just my goal is I am happy, and I think I just need to lean into being happy, and being my own best friend is so many different things, if I'm honest. But
what is the biggest thing that you would say that causes your happiness?
Oh, I think when I feel really at peace in myself, nothing external. I used to think anything external would make me happy, like, oh, if I change jobs, or if I get this grade at uni, or I get this gift, like that'll make me happy. But now it's more, I feel the happiest when I've kind of done a bit of mindfulness, or I'm doing something where I just feel really inner peace, and I can do that on my own. Or I think that's quite a difficult one actually.
It is.
It's hard to say.
It's the cross between the human being and the human doing. And when you're a human doing, you're doing everything out externally.
Yeah.
So it's like you've lost your car keys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're looking outside for them. But you lost them inside. That's the madness, is that we keep looking outside. And then we become collectors of things on the planet that were already given to us.
Yeah.
So I want to, you know, like some people refer to a child and they'll give them everything and they'll say, oh, that's a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
And I give them all this and they're still not happy. It's like, Yeah, because it's inside of them.
Yeah.
So whatever you give them externally, they can become collectors of things that are on the planet,
Yeah.
but they won't make you happy.
Oh, 100%. And I realised that. I got given a gift from a family member and I was like, oh, I can't wait. Like, it's going to make me so happy. I got it. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and then I want the next thing now.
Yes.
Just give me that and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then but actually, you're happy before you get the
Yeah,
gift.
you are.
Because
Put yourself in a state of mind.
in that state of mind, and so where's that state of mind? It's inside. Yeah.
I think probably actually, I'd change my answer. I'm the happiest when I look inside more and I look internal. And whenever we've had therapy, that's one thing I always end up doing afterwards is I come back in. Like when I felt anxious, it's because I'm so far out and I'm like almost disconnecting my body from my mind. And when I feel better, it's because I feel a bit more connected to myself and I feel internally very happy. I feel like I can do anything. Whenever I come off a therapy session, I feel like I could conquer the world.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of trying to keep that because that's mine.
It is. It's always yours. It's your freedom, isn't it? That you have a choice when you get up on the morning that I can do me inside.
Yeah.
Or I can do the external society.
And I think people hate that when you say it's a choice, but it is.
It
like
is.
As someone who has been genuinely depressed, I remember I couldn't even get out of bed. Like I didn't shower for like 2 weeks once, and now I see that it was a choice, and you don't see it like that. But I think it's more not a choice in the sense of like, I think it's really difficult. But like for me, it was always a choice because I'd choose to either stay in bed all day or maybe do something small that would help me, or go speak to my mum, or family member, or speak to somebody, or do something that would make me feel better. But I think I always chose to just sit and wallow. I always did that all the time. I just sit in bed and look in the ceiling for 8 hours, and I'm like, where's this 8 hours gone?
But it's not having the mindset at that time, or not feeling that you have the mindset to see your way out of it.
Yeah, that's the
so
thing.
you couldn't see your way out of it.
No.
You kind of, you'd gone in the bowl of soup, and when you slide into it, it's very difficult to pull yourself out. It's too slippery.
Oh yeah, you can't. Like you have the choice, but you can't see it. You do have the choice, but you don't at the same time. Like you have it, but you don't see it anywhere.
And all your energy is being exuded anyway on the negative.
Yeah.
And so there's no energy. People say, oh, well, you have to summon up too much energy to then be positive. It's like, well, no, because when you're positive, you actually have more energy.
You do.
But your energy gets drained by the
100%.
The negative. So you were pulled in the soup, and you were in the soup, and you couldn't find.
I couldn't. And if someone had said to me when I was severely depressed, it's a choice, I'd be like, I'd scream in the face probably. I'd be like, no, it's. I'd be like, no, it's not. If it was a choice, why would I choose to be unhappy? But you don't realise you're doing it, and it's even things like if you'd have told me something to do that was really helpful, it's almost like I'd forget because my mind is in depressive state. Like I'm in a depressive state that someone could give me a lifeline, and I still wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to pull out because I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Like my mind wouldn't let. I feel like my mind at the time, it wouldn't let me, but it would. It's just that I wouldn't let it because I was always comfortable being depressed.
Because you thought you were the mind.
Yeah.
So you fit. The schizophrenic voice is yours, but it's just like. It's not. It's just something you're interested in. It's a recording. So when you wake up every morning, it will remind you of what happened yesterday. Or it might remind you of what you've already planned to do in the future.
And so also, when, as well, I'd look back and there wasn't much that I could go on to be like, yeah, you are good. Or, I don't know, if I was to set something as simple as, going to bed early, I'd be like, oh, well, you're not going to do it. And then I'd prove to myself I wasn't going to do it because I told myself I wasn't going to do it.
But you didn't tell yourself that in the first place.
No, but
But the recording played. And you agreed with it.
Yeah, that's it. And I would sit there and I'd be like, oh, I knew I wouldn't. And it gets to 10 o'clock and it's almost like I'd wait and be like, oh, I knew I wasn't going to do it. And it's like, well, I just told myself I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
But it feels also quite alien to change habits. So when I started reading on a night time, it was like do you remember we were talking about inner child?
Yeah.
And it was like a block. When I'd go to read, because I used to hate reading. Well, actually I told myself I hated reading. I actually really enjoy it now. But when I would read, it was felt really weird to read and do something new and different, and it was something good for me. But it's almost like my mind was saying, no, don't do that, or the schizophrenic voice or whatever it was saying, no, don't do that. Fighting, it's like I had a good and a bad angel.
Yeah.
And I'd always listen to the negative side of myself, but yeah, Strange.
Do you see it as looking at your environment and the things that are out there? It's that if we're constantly brainwashed all the time with negative, so if you turn the TV on, majority of it's going to be negative.
Yeah,
It's going to be about murder.
Yeah.
You know, people get excited as well because it excites the amygdala, doesn't it, at the back of the brain. So a part of our survival is to make sure that we're safe. So we need to find out where the danger is. You know, if you hear a noise, you can't sleep until you've investigated where the noise is coming from.
That's true.
Yeah, so we need to find out that we're safe, and it's like, oh, it's just a cat, now I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
But before that you can't, you're just gonna, you know, your amygdala is gonna be lit up like a Christmas tree. So it's that, if you think about how many times in a day does your amygdala get lit up, what programs do you watch?
Yeah.
What conversations do you have?
Yeah.
What conversations do you overhear?
Yeah.
What's on the news? And its majority
It's all negative.
is negative, so we do very well to put a smile on our face.
Yeah, we do. That's
So-
why I always watch the same I will watch the same Disney films all the time because I feel great after watching them,
Yeah,
and I will always rewatch things that I felt really good watching because it just makes me, I feel really happy when I watch them.
yeah,
I can rewatch it 20 times in a week and I don't get bored of it because the feeling I get from watching it, I love it, and I'll put it on like Beauty and the Beast and I love watching it and it just makes me feel great. But I've noticed that when I watch something that's sad, or if there's like a character that's not mentally well, like I can watch it but I'm always a bit like, why have I watched that? Like, what was the benefit of me watching it? Like, I don't feel good after watching it. And I've been a bit more more careful about what I've been listening to, and like why am I listening to a depressing song? Like, why I'm not sad.
even with that.
Yeah.
So is what you're saying part of your wellness
Yeah.
is to be mindful of the junk food that you're putting
Yes.
in to your mind and your body as well.
Well, it's like if I'm eating a salad or eating healthy, like having avocado on toast or something, but then I'm listening to some awful music that's just talking about depression and like all these awful depressive things, like what's the point? Like, your mind is, I'd arguably say your mind is the most important thing that you should be feeding.
Yeah, because everything's connected.
Yeah.
So it is about, you know, well, our thoughts
Yeah.
change our world, don't they? You
Yeah.
change your mind, you change your world.
100%.
So,
The world's your mirror, and I think I've noticed that whenever I'm happy, like it's reflected in even small things. Like, I don't know, like there was a discount. I went away, and when I felt good, like I was like, I really want to get a cheap train. And then there's a cheap train. The deal came on, and I was like, have I manifested this? And it's just things like that. Like, you notice it more, and being grateful. That's one part of my wellness, and I've been doing it with a family member recently. Is every day I'll do one thing during the day. I'll do a check-in every day. Well, I haven't, like, in the last few days. I've been doing check-ins where I'm like, okay, like, am I okay? Or like, how do I feel? And I'm really grateful. Like, I'll always do something every day that I'm grateful for, because you can't be anxious and upset if you're grateful.
Exactly.
You can't.
They don't go
No.
to there.
And I try and cling on to those feelings, but it is hard. And you know, like you were saying, like the world, it can be quite triggering sometimes, but it's almost just being like, wherever you are in the world, like, you're safe. It's not a place that makes you safe, it's who you are inside. But yeah, wellness is definitely being grateful for things, because I think as well, when you constantly want more, you're not being present, you're not being grateful, you're almost like living in the future.
Yeah, because you're asking something else to give you what you can't be bothered to give to yourself. Basically, I can't be bothered, so I'll go get that.
Yeah.
I'll go get a burger or a bar of chocolate, and that can do it for me. But I can't be bothered.
No, and then you feel rubbish afterwards because it actually didn't do anything. I did that last night, so I went to get some chocolate, and I was like, why have I done this? Because I just feel awful now.
Yeah.
And I would have felt nice if I'd just had something like my favourite, which is watermelon.
Yeah.
But I just had chocolate instead, which is silly.
That's it.
Which didn't make me feel better. But yeah, I think being well is just about kind of taking also a step back and just looking at like, okay, like what's made me happy? Like, what am I happy? What's made me happy? What am I happy about today? What can I do like every day? Like, what can I do? And it's as simple as every single night. All the people that are really close to me know this about me. I have Emma Bridgewater mugs. I've collected them over time, and they almost became like this like crazy obsession where I felt really good on an evening. I have a cup of tea or a pink like raspberry tea every single night, and that's what I do for myself every night. I pick out my favourite mug for the night, and I'll sit before bed and have a cup of tea, and that's like a daily ritual of mine where it's like I check in with myself. And it's something as small as that, like adding something in every day that can just it's like almost like a positive trigger for me.
Yeah, because if you think about when you said about, talks about manifesting, and
I love manifesting.
yeah, and it's not really, do you know, when we make things out of it, don't we?
Yeah.
We as human beings, instead of keeping it really simple, we make things out of what we get. But it's not because we're conjuring something up, it's because of who we are.
Yeah.
So we're just doing what it already is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you think about the things that you get, everything comes from the mind, because the
Yeah.
evidence is in this room. It's like everything, unless it's a plant
Mhm.
that was already given to us, everything's already been given to us, but everything in this room came from someone's mind.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely everything,
Yes.
good,
Yeah.
bad, or indifferent. People will believe certain things, like somebody had said, I'd asked them what they'd like, and I said, turn your dial up a little bit, means if you like that, make it bigger. Can you make it
Mhm.
bigger? And they got to a point where the program came in and said, that's too rich for me.
Mhm.
Like, so who told you that? So now you've got your limitations.
Yeah.
There are no limitations.
No.
It's just that they were given to us.
Yeah.
So there are no limitations.
Oh, yeah.
So when you think, well, if everything that I think about, good, bad or indifferent,
Mhm.
do I make that true? It's like,
Yeah.
absolutely, because one of your beliefs is that's too rich for me.
And I think, like, even with this like podcast video, I was still like, oh, why do you want to do that? And now I'm doing it. I was like, oh yeah, great. But it's before, like, I had one person that had said to me, really close to me actually, that had said, like, are you sure you want to do that? Putting doubt in my mind, they're trying to put doubt in my
Their
mind.
yeah.
And putting their limitation on me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, why not? And I think, there's someone else who's really, really close to me who they live their life very limitless. That there's no barrier, and I love that. And there's also someone else who I actually manifest with. We talk about all the time. It's so funny, but it's true. Like, and to be fair, everything I've manifested has come true.
That's it, because it's not magic.
No.
It's what we are, you know, what we think
Yeah.
then appears, and it's because we make it. We're the ones that's making it happen. That's why the evidence is all around us. The clothes that we wear come
Yeah.
from somebody's mind. The shoes, absolutely everything comes from someone's mind. You know, if you believe you're rich, you'll be rich, and if you believe you're poor, it's based on that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do good things make? Good outcomes.
Yeah, exactly.
What do bad things make? Bad outcomes.
And I also just think as well, like, that's one tip that I used to do early on. Actually, no, I don't know if it was early on or you mentioned it was like last year. It was, I don't know if you remember this, but we had a therapy session and you said, oh, like, look at everything in your room right now has been man-made, and whenever I do feel a bit anxious, like, I do use that technique, and I'm like, oh yeah, that light's been made by someone, and someone's delivered it. And I think that's a good way as well when I deal with anxiety and wellness, is I do little tips and tricks that you've given me, like tools and like coping mechanisms that help me, like, bring me back down.
Yeah.
And I think
To stay inside.
yeah, just to stay inside and stop going so far out in the future.
Yeah. So it's just go home.
Just go home, yeah.
Just go home.
And home's wherever you are.
Yeah, but home's in here.
Yeah.
It's not out there.
Yeah.
So anxiety comes from being out there too much.
Yeah.
And thinking about what other people want, or what other people, the limitations that they've given you. It's like if somebody wants to give you advice, they can only give you advice from their experience.
Yeah.
But that's like if a man gave you experience that was 6 foot and a size 10, and he told you his experience, well, that's like putting on his shoes.
Yeah.
They wouldn't fit,
No.
would they? So it's like, okay, that's yours,
Yeah.
but over here is mine.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing your shoes,
Yeah.
but they don't fit me.
Yeah, and you don't have to, like, I think one good thing that I've realised is just because someone gives me advice doesn't mean I need to actually do anything with it. Like, it's just what they think. And I'm never offended if I give someone advice. And I always ask, do you even want it? I often feel like people give you advice and you just want them to talk. Like, you don't even want to, you don't want their opinion on it. You just want to sometimes offload.
Yeah.
And I think it's also knowing as well that when someone does say something to you, like, you do not have to take that on.
Yeah.
And that's because of their experiences. And there's like 7 billion people on the planet. Like, everyone's experiences are different. and everyone gives advice based on their experience.
Exactly, it's not on the truth.
No.
You know, because if it was true, it would be true for every single person,
Exactly.
but it's not true for every single
No.
person. So it's their truth,
Yeah.
but it might not be yours. You
Yeah.
might have a different truth.
And standing up for yourself, I'd say that's part of wellness.
Yeah.
I learned that short-term tension can happen, and when I went to therapy, like, that did happen in family, or, you know, and I was happy to have that because I knew that the long-term outcome would be better. And I think that's part of, like, my wellness is I'm not afraid to kind of rock the boat if I need to for myself, and I'm not in a bad way, not like I'm trying to cause problems, but if I don't agree with something, or if that's going to affect me negatively, like, I don't have to be part of it.
Yeah, I think it's recognising that, as you are with short-term tension, that's a really good word that you've used, that it's not going to last forever.
No.
When you come into therapy, you come in and then I'll say what your experience is, what have you experienced in life, and then you come in and recognise that none of these things belong to you, they're just other people's bags out there.
Yeah.
And so when you go out there in the short-term tension is because you're not collecting the bags anymore. And so, but it's being able to say what your fears were as well. The short-term tension is to say, it's because I'm not picking up the bags of that person, and I fear not doing that because there's going to be tension.
Yeah, and I was since I've been little, I've always been known as, like, the trouble causer. Yeah. Because I've always been open and direct, but I don't think I think because I'd gone through something, I kind of channeled it in more of an angry way. Yeah. And I don't think I'd necessarily would say things in a nice way, because I was so unhappy, like, everything that came out of me was either, like, sadness or tension, or I was just angry. But now I can say it in a way that's positive, like, it's positive for me, and I feel good about saying things, but I'm also not afraid to be like, I don't agree with you, and I'm not going to do that for you because you want me to do it. And part of wellness for me is also understanding that just because I feel a certain way doesn't mean that someone else has to change something, because that's an external issue. Yeah. And the same for someone else. Like, if I do something that's upsetting them, I don't have to change what I'm doing because they're upset by that, because ultimately, as long as I'm not doing something nasty, it's not my responsibility to try externally make you feel better, or the same for someone else.
So as referring back to you know, my crude
from this morning
is if somebody's got shit in a bag, that's all you're going to get out of
you're
it.
just going to get
and
shit.
So what you're saying is that was my shit.
That was my shit.
But you've changed it now.
Oh yeah.
You've got a lovely bag.
I've got a lovely bag, that smells great, and there's no shit in
it. That's good.
There's no shit in my bag.
And if there is, you'll empty it out.
Yeah, and I think that's also one thing about wellness that I haven't said is, I think I thought when I go to therapy that if I have a few sessions, or if I go to therapy for a year, like, that's it, I'm cured, I'm good, nothing's ever going to get in, nothing's ever going to affect me. I think I've also learnt that things can sometimes come in, but they can also be, like, I can get rid of them.
Yeah,
and
not to feel, yours.
Yeah, they're not, like, I'm not scared of it. Like, before I have been quite scared of, because I'm not used to feeling depressed as much anymore. Like, I might have a little bit of anxiety sometimes, but I'm not used to ever feeling depressed now, or anxious. So, like, if I do feel anxious or depressed, I sometimes catastrophize. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going back to how I was 2 years ago, when I'm not. I'm just maybe having a moment of let something in, and I just need to sit, say hi to it, and say bye to it. Say hi and bye. Yeah. Like, hi, bye, good riddance. And
that's
not let it fester.
And it's not getting that emotionally constipated. Yeah. It's like anything else. It wants to come out.
It wants to come out.
And
if you're eating and feeding it with loads of bullshit, then that's what will come out.
Yeah, it wants to come out.
But
so it's like anything.
Yeah, and just being kind to yourself, and not being so hard on yourself. If you know, if I've let something in, not being like, oh, for God's sake, why have you done that? Yeah. And pressuring yourself, because I also think that because you know that you've let it in, you can sometimes, I can get quite angry at myself, like, why have I let that in? Yeah. But it's just like, well, you just let it in, just let it back out. Like, you don't need to keep it there.
That's it. And sometimes you can enjoy things that have got in, just because you recognise, well, if this isn't my body, because if it was, I wouldn't be able to go down to my feet right now and see how they're feeling. Yeah. So it's who's the looker? Who's the one that's just gone in the feet then? Yeah. Who's the one that comes into therapy and describes what they're feeling and what they're thinking? Yeah. So it can't be you. Yeah. Because if it was you, but well, there's nothing we can do. It's who you are.
Yeah.
But there's something inside of you that knows that that's uncomfortable. Whatever's uncomfortable doesn't belong to you,
100%.
and I want it out.
100%. And
Yeah.
I think wanting it out as well in terms of like who you surround yourself with, I think that's a massive part of wellness. I've been really lucky that I've got really supportive friends and family, and certain family members have their own stuff that they have to deal with. But, you know, I think it's all just about accepting everyone for who they are and stop trying to change people, because I think when I was really unwell, I would always try to change everyone because I was so unhappy that I thought that's what the issue was, and I needed to find inner peace.
Yeah, and
then I
everyone
realised-
says that. The majority of people will say, if the world would stop doing that, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the world's not.
No.
So, you know, whatever's not okay is inside of you. It's your world inside of you.
And enjoying the now, because I think I used to very much live like, oh, I'll be in 5 years' time, I'll be doing this, and it's like, well, no, like, you'll just be as happy as you are in this moment.
Yeah.
So you need to be happy in this moment.
Just be in this moment.
Yeah, just be in the moment.
Yeah, it is literally, I mean, it's said loads of times in it.
Yeah.
The moment is really all that we have.
Yeah, it is. And if you continuously living in the future, then you'll manifest always living in the future, and you'll never be happy where you are or who you have with. And I think being a part of being grateful is just, and having gratitude is just accepting who you are, and also being like, okay, it's fine, like I'm happy, like I'm good. And if you're not, then go work on that.
Yeah.
And don't feel the pressure to get better for anyone else. I think that would be as well something that I would say.
It is, and I think what you're saying is to focus on and be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, I want, because it's like when you focus on the ego all the time, the egoic voice, it just repeats the same thing. And then you say, what have I been focusing on for 25 years? Well, you must have been focusing on the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you come into therapy and you say, what's the problem? This thing happened to me 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And you've still been looking at it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
I have. And your life's run by it.
Yeah.
It is. So you're not in the moment.
No.
You've missed out on all those 40
Yeah.
years. You've just been looking back there.
Yeah, and also like when you're in therapy, like it's not a quick fix, because if you've had something that's been dormant, like I think that's what happened to me. I think it was in my subconscious all the time, and it would affect me, but I just didn't realise.
Yeah.
And then something happened where it just triggered it, and then I was like, oh my god, it's full throttle, now it's here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I was 8 when it happened to me. So it was like when I was 8, you think about it, I wasn't in therapy till I was probably about like 22.
Yeah.
That's a long time to have trauma and to be in fight or flight.
Yeah.
So it's almost thinking as well, like, okay, I'll get there, but just being really kind that you might have 6 months where you cry. I think I cried to you for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying like, what do you want for this? But I just want to be happy. And it's like, well, happy, you will be happy, but it's also being kind and understanding that it's not like therapy's not a quick fix. You know, if it was, everyone would be fine after a session.
Yeah, we'd be all whipped in and out and we'd be cooked by now.
And sometimes you need to go back. Like I've had therapy with you once a week for a while, and then I'll drop back off to every 2 weeks, and I'm good. And it's also just listening to yourself and like what you need, and I think therapy is really good for that, and feeling safe where you are as well.
Yeah.
And who you speak to, and you know, like I stopped seeing another therapist because I just didn't feel right, and that's fine too. Like making decisions based on whether you feel good about them is really important. But also everyone's different as well. Like what works for me in this conversation might not work for someone else.
Yeah. But it's just the fact that you're saying, and that's okay.
That's fine.
Because we're all different, like you said.
If you need to cry for an hour, that's fine. Like I went on a walk and cried the other day, and my friend was there to support me, and then I felt great afterwards because I just
let it out.
Let it out, and then we went for a walk and did loads of steps. So I think, you know, it's what works for everyone, and also nature's really good. I think going outside, not sitting indoors for like 5 days. I've done that before, and I'm like, oh my god, I've not left the house in 5 days.
Yeah.
And getting outside, like nature cures nature, and like going for walks and just being a bit more present and using all your senses. And I think just sitting on a bench, literally with the sun on my face, a bit of wind, that can sometimes get me back in.
It's amazing, isn't it, how we deem ourselves as being most intelligent when actually, you know, nature knows better than we do.
Yeah.
You don't see nature, the madness of, if there's an illness, you don't see birds flying to go and get leaves to wipe the backside like we'd go and stalk up on toilet roll.
I agree.
So yeah, you can kind of see our madness in some places.
But I also just think as well, like whenever I've been sad, like I knew that would help, but I had a block, and I would never think, oh, just go for a walk. But actually now I do it all the time, and it's so helpful, like going for a walk on your own or with a friend, but like not taking your phone sometimes as well.
And it's also recognising that, you know, when you say that you have a block, it's recognising the block isn't even yours.
Yeah.
It's in the ego.
Yeah.
And you're not that.
No.
So
you're not crazy either.
Yeah. So you don't actually have a block. You're just observing a block.
Exactly. And I think I would almost think that am I crazy? Like I remember I'd ask you things all the time, like, am I crazy? Oh, I thought this, and it's like, you're not crazy. You've had a mental, you're going through a mental, you might be going through a mental illness or whatever that may be. It's like, you're not crazy. You've taken all this stuff from all these different people and all these experiences and all these situations, and now you're having to really deal with them. And it's not easy, but I think, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
That would be.
And that's the biggest thing, I think, is being able to, lots of people say, oh, this might sound stupid or this sounds silly. And it's
said that to you.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It's just that we don't say it out, say certain things out loud, and it's okay to say.
Yeah.
It's just okay to be who you are and to say what you need to say.
Exactly. And like after watching certain films, you might watch something and think about something, and you're not crazy if I think if you're feeding it in, that's what you might think about, if you're watching a film or you feel sad after watching it or I think it's just being accepting. I think it's really hard when you don't like yourself, or if you're in the state of like you're not accepting of who you are, but I think that's what gives you inner peace, is being happy with who you are. Because I think if you're not, it just feeds into everything. Then you're not happy with how you perform, or how, as a friend, like when I was really insecure, I'd be like, oh my god, everyone hates me, or my friends don't like me. There's nothing to suggest that my friends don't like me. There's nothing suggests that my family don't like me or my partner doesn't like me. But you just think it.
I think it's just accepting that people can only look at you through their eyes.
Yeah.
They can't look at you through yours.
Yeah.
So can't really disrespect them and kind of tell them what they're saying.
No, you can't. And also, like we've said before, if someone's rude to you, it's nothing to do with you. Like it's literally nothing to do with you. It's their experience.
People treat you bad, not because of you, but because of them.
And you can't do anything about that.
No.
Other than just not being part of the conversation. And I think having that power of being like, I'm not even participating in this conversation is fine.
Because it's not about you.
No, and they're not better than you because you're not better than anyone else. Like, you're just you. There's no comparison to anyone else. You're just you doing life. And the more you compare yourself to other people, it's like you're looking for something. And if you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Yeah, to make yourself feel better because you literally, that's using something, an outlet, because you can't be bothered to go inside to make yourself feel better.
You can't, and it's not, because then it just causes you to, like, long term just continue to do the same thing, and then it just eats away at you, and then you suddenly like, why am I so unhappy? And it's like, well, because you've not been doing things to help you feel better. You've just
water your own plant and leave other people to water them.
Yeah, leave everyone in their own devices, and I think it's nothing to do with anyone else what you're doing.
Are we okay to end?
Yeah.